mission is to talk to people about pollinators, pollination, and the environment. Also, along with that, I want to thank Evelyn Lippert. She provided the seeds for the packets that went out to the students. And Cherry City Honey supplied the honey sticks. And Kim put together all the bags for the students. So all of them left with a nice, gift. And sounded like it went pretty well. Also tonight, we're going to draw some numbers for some door prizes back here. Nothing too elaborate, but we're going to have some door prizes at the end of the meeting. So don't run off. Let's see, the other thing is Evelyn Lippert, she also donated 10 pounds of hamburger meat for the chili tonight. So once again, if you see Evelyn, thank her. We appreciate it. And I want to thank Tammy Wiley for making the chili.
She connected right after.
Anyway, I was bragging last meeting about this chili recipe because she puts honey in it. And I like it. And so anyway, I like it. Also, I want to thank Kim Root for helping us get all this together tonight. And I also want to thank all of you for taking time to make something and bring it. This time of getting together and just talking and visiting with one another and fellowshipping with one another, it's an important time. We're beekeepers. We like to talk about our hives and everything else.
Gary, real quick, just interrupt. Is there anyone who has not signed in?
Yeah, I knew it would be happening. You should. Yeah. So here's our plan for tonight. So this is not like a traditional business meeting, though I did talk about the minutes and the treasury report. But tonight we have a guest speaker, and I'm gonna turn the floor over to our guest speaker. And my goal tonight is to have us out of here by 8 o'clock. And so, yeah, and my wife's reminded me to don't forget the door prizes. We have door prizes tonight. So, hey, I want to start out and introduce Marcy. Marcy Lenninger. Okay. I butchered names. I'm sorry.
I confused him in the beginning. He said it right the first time. I said I'll respond to whatever. So that's my fault.
Well, this is Marcy, and Marcy is the director of the Ohio Pollinator Habitat Initiative. And I learned about this group, and I didn't realize that the Ohio State Beekeeper Association is a partner like with this group. And so I contacted Marcy and asked her if she would come and talk to the group. This group's a nonprofit organization. They work to improve and create pollinator habitat within our state. And they work within Ohio to raise awareness about pollinators and the importance of pollinators. So with that, I'm going to turn the floor over to Marcy and let her spend some time telling you about pollinators.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. It's super important to get out and actually talk to people. You can do as many webinars as you want, but at some point it's like, God, I really wish I could see some people. That'd be nice. So thank you. Make sure I got the buttons correct.
It should be that down.
Okay.
There we go.
Wait, down is up and up is down. Okay, got it.
Yep.
So like Gary was saying, we're a statewide nonprofit. We also work, across state borders. If other states need assistance or have questions, I get phone calls all the way from California, from Florida, who are looking for somebody to help them, give them some sort of insight. So I basically take calls from anybody. And what's the phone number that's on our website is my cell phone.
Oh,
just so you know.
okay.
So it comes right to me. If I don't call you right back, there's a reason for that. But we are universities, schools, churches, businesses, state colleges, agencies, both federal and state, you kind of name it. We're very inclusive. We like to make sure that we're working with everybody in meeting our mission, because it takes all of us to meet this mission. We can't be doing it just ourselves. It has to be inclusive. We have to make sure that we're all kind of gathered together to meet this mission that we have here, which is to improve habitat in the state of Ohio for pollinators, and to also educate Ohioans about the importance of pollinators. When we started doing the roadside work with ODOT, where I also work, that's my full-time job. This is my second job. It was really important to say, hey, Ohio, here's what we're doing out on the road, and here's why we're doing it. Because if you don't have that why, the action doesn't really make sense. And if you don't understand pollinator habitat, if you don't understand prairies and wild prairies and naturalization, it doesn't look what you think it should. They're pretty in about year 3. Okay. So at first you're like, what are they doing? You have no idea what they're doing out there. So we try to pair what we're doing in our actions with education, and also educating, young people, the people who are going to replace us when I can't do this anymore, so they know what we're doing and why it's important and what sustainability is. I did the wrong one. Okay. So we have concerns. The whole point of doing this is because we have this huge concern about pollinators. And I'm trying to not stand in front of my slides. I'm kind of standing over here. And can you all hear me okay? Perfection. So in 2015, the monarch butterfly was petitioned to be federally listed. Since then, it has been warranted by the Fish and Wildlife Service to be listed, but precluded at this time because of other more imperiled species. So basically what that means is it will be listed, just not right now. So we know it's in trouble. If monarchs are in trouble, we better stop and rethink some things. And so the initiative was built as a chance to be proactive and not reactive in what's happening out in our landscape. So do we cross our fingers and hope everything goes away? Well, I hope it goes away, but it's obviously not. So let's be proactive. Let's start doing stuff now so we can try and fix what it is we're doing out there and replace those things that we're lacking in our landscape. The pollinators are essential to our well-being. They're essential to a healthy ecosystem, to a full, diverse ecosystem. And we've got monarch butterflies, we've got bumblebees, managed honeybees. They're all in decline, okay? And this has been happening for years. There's pollinators that have been listed already. We've got the rusty patch bumblebee, which I'll go into here in a minute. But if you really think about the importance of pollinators, hear that with our agricultural production, and think about all those food you eat, which I'll go into here in a little bit, that we might not have if we don't have that essential pollination on the landscape. So declining pollinators. Here's my students like to be like, me, Marcy, your class is depressing. I'm like, I'm so sorry, but I like to give them all the information first before I bring them hope, right? So they need to understand here's what the hope is and here's why, right? So we've got honeybee colonies. They've been in decline 29% or more across the United States. Some of you probably already know this information. If it's remedial, I apologize. It's the teacher in me. I can't help it. I have to do this. And so those losses are attributed to so many things: disease, parasites, lack of habitat and food, infrastructure, all those things. It's not just one thing that's causing these declines. We have unmanaged pollinators. They're experiencing declines. We also have bumblebees, which the rusty patch bumblebee is listed as federally threatened under the Endangered Species Act. Unfortunately for Ohio, it's extirpated from Ohio. We work with ODOT to go out and do surveying and really looking for all the areas in Ohio where we might find this, and we didn't find it. It's just not in Ohio, so it's not extinct, but it's sad that it's not here. And we have butterflies that are also in decline. We have, multiple species that, if you think of it as sort of like this triangle and all these blocks of butterflies in that triangle with the monarch being at the top. If monarch butterflies are having trouble, what else is having trouble? All of these species share the same habitat. And so one of the biggest issues is lack of habitat. And especially if you're a butterfly that need a specific thing in order to survive, like the monarch butterfly. It needs common milkweed or milkweed. So depending on which state you're in, it could be, swamp milkweed, it could be, pokeweed, whatever. It needs that in order to lay its eggs. Okay, I'm sorry, world milkweed, not pokeweed, that's something different. And so we are seeing declines across the United States. And in Ohio, we have a 90% decline in adult monarchs. So what we're trying to do with the initiative is get milkweed back out of the landscape, which I have some freebies for you all tonight of packs of milkweed, and trying to replace those things that are lacking on the landscape that's causing these declines. So how many of you know about monarchs and milkweed? Probably everybody in this room. Okay, good. So lots of breeding habitat is super, super important. Okay, so if we know that there's a 90% lack of adults, what does that say for egg laying and the next generations? Not looking too good, right? So we also know, because all these things share the same habitats, we're also seeing declines in birds, grassland birds especially, that utilize those habitats also for breeding. So you're starting to see this chain of effect where this species is having trouble, now this species is, now this species is. I mean, and it's all connected. It's not just about pollinators at this point. It's about pollinators, wildlife, and ecosystem health. So just a real quick study to tell you, we're creating food for pollinators, but by creating food for pollinators and bringing up pollinators, we're creating food for birds. Birds eat pollinators. It's just the way that it is. So, everybody's got to eat. But if you think about a nesting bird nest, so there's about 3 bugs per trip to the nest, about 7 trips an hour times 12 hours a day. So that's 252 bugs per day per nest, about a 12-day nesting period. That's a little over 3,000 bugs per nest. All right. So if you think of how many birds use grass, the grassland birds out there breeding, that's a heck of a lot of bugs, right? So obviously, if we're having trouble with pollinators, these guys are going to start having a lot of issues. And so we're seeing the systematic decline across the ecosystem, which we're trying to replace what we're losing and educate people about. Hey, it's not just this, it's this and this and this and this. And so pollinators also provide us a range of ecosystem services. They're excellent for our agricultural production. About 85% of the world's flowering plants depend on pollination. So that's about 240,000 plants that need to be pollinated in order to produce fruit or whatever vegetable. They help sustain wildland habitats. So if there's any hunters in the room, those habitats where turkeys thrive, those habitats where grouse survive, those habitats where deer forage, those are all habitats that are created because the pollinators get out there to pollinate and they're able to be sustained through that pollination. But without that, those habitats also go in. So it gets bigger than just pollinators. There's intrinsic value. How many people like to go birding? Love it. I am very cat-like. I'll be in the middle of a conversation. I'll be like, I'm sorry, I can't talk. There's a bird everywhere. I gotta go see it. Right? It's exciting. They're an indispensable component for farm to table. If anybody does intensive gardening, you need to have that, right? No, I didn't. Okay, good. Sometimes they look the same, the slides. So I have to remind myself. So why do native plants matter? Well, they're essential to restoring native habitat in Ohio. They help create diversity, native diversity for native pollinators. Okay, not to say that non-native things can't use them, but they're Ohio. They're born and raised in Ohio, right? They're bred Ohio. So they're going to be strong, sustainable. They're going to have good root systems. They're going to help on a multitude of levels, providing food and nourishment in the ecosystem. So if you're creating a native plant garden, each patch of garden, some people say, well, how much is enough? I say, how much do you have? You can have potted plants. I had an apartment complex come to me when I worked for the Fish and Wildlife Service. And the whole area, the apartment complex shared this one like patio space, this little garden space, and they all decided they're gonna plant potted milkweed. Awesome. Those milkweed had tons of caterpillars on them, right? Because if you build it, they will come usually. And so they called us and said, we're running out of milkweed. We don't know what to do. We have a bunch of caterpillars and almost no milkweed. So my partner and I took our time out of our day. We went and we got all the plants, all the caterpillars. We relocated them to a place that had enough milkweed so they could finish their process and then turn into butterflies. So it doesn't take much to get a result, right? So each patch becomes this bigger mosaic of landscape. And I'll show you an example later on. So some of the benefits, they're low maintenance, right? Once you get a native pollinator habitat established, it takes about 2 or 3 years to really make sure that things are going the way they're supposed to go. I'm not gonna lie and say you plant the seeds and it magnificently appears. It doesn't do that. But nothing does when you're trying to make a restoration project. But the beautiful thing about native habitat is that once you have it established, you did all of your prep, you did all of your maintenance correctly. By year 3, they should be coming in. You should probably need to mow that maybe once a year, if at all. And that's a huge change from having to mow the lawn, what, every 3 weeks? Well, if you're my husband, every 2 or 3 weeks. So, you know, well, we've divided. He gets the front yard, I get the back yard. So we've changed. You know, people can, it looks nice. I take the backyard, but people don't get to see it. But that's fine. But they're beautiful. These habitats, once they're established, you start looking at them, you really see them where they are. It's not a manicured lawn with a manicured bed. It's this beautiful, organic, thriving, flowing area of flowers and grasses that work together for a whole bunch of species, right? That's what they're for. They're not for, you know, an ornamental design. They're healthy places for people, right? So you walk out there, how many people like think you walk out to a field of flowers and feel like crap? You feel great, right? You're like, oh, this is nice. I'm feeling better. Like you can have the worst day and go out there and I'm feeling better. This is good. Okay. They're healthy, not only for mental awareness, but for physical awareness. You're out walking. You're using your body to be out with nature. You're thinking about things. You're looking at things. You're being stimulated on multiple levels. It helps with climate. Deep, nice root systems establish themselves. They're there for the long haul. It helps with all the climate issues we're having, with water quality, conservation of water. Those roots are like sponges, especially if you're doing a wetland restoration. All right, you're seeing all this runoff from the roads. You're seeing, like I was driving up here, I saw lots of flooding in the ditches, and I couldn't stop my brain from thinking like, oh, what can we plant there that would like help make that better? You know, like coming up with a plant list in my head. So I should probably concentrate more on driving, but I don't. I'm looking out the window a lot. But it helps with water quality. It helps with wildlife. You know, making all these connections to things that we need, wildlife needs, pollinators needs. It's all these things that are connected in the ecosystem that we are absolutely a part of. Just to give you a little bit of a diagram of what I'm talking about, you know, some of the things you see here, those are kind of typical things you see at like corporate buildings, offices. They're easy, you know, like daylilies especially. I ripped a bunch of those up. Listen, I'm not nice when I relocate plants. They need to be tough, right? I don't really have time to bathe them. I ripped them up. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna toss you over here. If you live, great. If you don't, whatever. I didn't plant them. They just rooted on the grass, and they're still alive today. So they're hardy, but they're not what we want. We want diversity, nice deep root systems, things that are going to help get in there, till that soil up, help with water quality, really establish themselves and stay around for the long haul because that's what they're supposed to do. They live here, right? So let's make them a good home so they can stay here. My bark, by the way, great birding shrub. They love it. And if you don't prune it, it's even more beautiful because it gets nice big flowing white flowers. It looks like little cascades. It's gorgeous. So what we're trying to do is get things planted that are new. Plant nectar resources. I'm not gonna lie to you and say that I'm a purist, okay? There's a place for annuals. There's a place for non-aggressive, non-natives, okay? That's a quick food source, all right? A lot of times when I'm coming up with a seed prescription, I'll say, you know what? Let's throw some annuals in there. Let's give it a big burst of color while those other things have some time to establish. There's nothing wrong with color. There's nothing wrong with a quick food source, especially for our early emergent beets, okay? They need that stuff. So we think about when we're talking about plants, we're talking about getting things growing in your yard or whatever restoration project, priority setting approaches. See how fancy I got for you? We want to have lots of variety. We want to make sure that we've got 3 seasons of blooming plants. Okay, so we want spring, summer, fall. Fall's the most difficult, as you guys probably know. It's kind of slim pickings about what's out there and having that diversity. So you're gonna get a lot of asters and goldenrods and things like that, which is fine. There's multiple kinds of goldenrod. There's multiple kinds of asters. Right? We can play the game, okay? But we want to make sure that in those 3 seasons, we have at least 3 blooming plants per season. That way we make sure we've got enough food out there that's going to sustain anything that's using it. And if you have more than that, you're not sustaining it, right? We talk to solar companies and we say, we've got the solar scorecard on our website. And there's a minimum amount of plants that they can plant. And then there's like, hey, this is the holy grail. And if you can have 9 plants that's outstanding. It's not that hard to think about. Let's just throw another seed down there. Or let's divide this out and move this over here, move that over there. It's just a little bit of thinking. And if you have a native plant and you're moving it, it's like, oh, thank you. This is great. I've got some room to move now, so I can stretch my feet out, right? So you can really make this happen. It's not that super hard. And the other thing we think about, some important factors when we're choosing what we're going to plant, to make sure we have size, color, and shape taken care of. Because not all pollinators are the same, right? We have some things where we need those specialists so they can get up in those tubes and do the work. But we have big butterflies like the monarch who really need a landing strip, right? I can't get up in there, I'm too big. So give me something easy. So you're thinking about the diversity of what you're planting. Think about the diversity of what you want to bring to that planting site. Hummingbirds, anything, right? Look at this. Boom, land here. And there's some other things that do some pollinating for us, which we'll talk about in a little bit, that we didn't think about. All right, this is the teacher, sorry. Pollination, we all know this. Can't help it. I almost took it out, I was like, can't help it. This is why I left it in here. Pollinators are keystone species. Okay, if you think about it, pollinators do so much work for us. So if you think of them as more of a keystone species, something that's essential to make these things happen, these chain reactions happen in our ecosystem, they really fit into more of that keystone species area. 85% of our flowering plants rely on pollination, 240,000 plants roughly. And they're essential to a global, not just your, thinking Ohio, now let's think bigger. We have tons of things worldwide that need pollinated. So without pollinators, we're going to have some big breakdowns, not just locally, but globally. And so why does all this matter? They play a vital role in agriculture. They play a vital role in the economy. You want to get down to like brass tacks, okay? And they contribute more than $24 billion to that economy through agriculture, through pollination. That's a big deal. And Ohio is an agricultural state. So it increases our nutrition. And without that, we won't have access to foods that we absolutely need, like amino acids, We need certain nutrients as humans in order to be healthy, right? We get that through fruits and vegetables, nuts, and different things like that. And if we don't have that, think about what happens to human health. You know, we're lacking a lot of those nutrients that we need. They're lacking the things that they need, and in return, we're going to start lacking things that we also need. This is a short list of everything that I could fit on a slide that are important to me. I'll be selfish. I eat a lot of these things. You know, but you don't think about it. You know, for example, I just used coriander last night for a rib rub. I don't know if you've ever used coriander for rib rub, but it's a really good thing to use with brown sugar. Nutmeg, tea plants, peaches, pears, peppermint. Oh, where's the one? If this, I don't have this, we're not going to be okay. So there's probably some people there that also have that same problem. Most people don't call me before 10. They know how to drink coffee. But I mean, look at this list. It's crazy, you know. Like, and this is just a small list of things that we eat, that we use. We probably don't think about, hey, this was brought to me because of a pollinator. And I'll make sure that this is available. I'll give it to Gary. I don't know where Gary went. Oh, there it is. I'll give this to Gary so he can share it with all of you. But what I'm trying to connect the dots is saying, like, everything that we do in restoration and education helps other things. So just because you're helping a monarch doesn't mean it's only helping a monarch. You are helping a monarch in 50 other things that shares that habitat with monarchs. Our common eastern bumblebee, which by the way, has been petitioned to be federally listed, by the way. So that's under review. My mind's kind of blown about it. I don't really know what to say about that. It's not good, but they do a ton of pollinating, tons of pollinating. Our sweet little sweat bee. So everybody thinks they're standing out in the field and you have a bunch of flower flies landing on you, and everybody thinks it's a sweat bee, but it's not. It's a flower fly. So they're which I have on here. I'll show you the difference. But sweat bees do tons of work, especially they're so small, so they can get into all those little areas. They can pollinate anything they want to because of their size, unless they get eaten, and that happens. Our flower fly. This is my favorite pollinator. No offense to the monarch. I love the monarch, and that's what has helped me with my work. But this guy is awesome. Look, this guy has a fly head and a bee body. Right? Come on. That's ingenious. No stinger. They don't sting. They just look like a bee for protection. Love those mimics. Our flower spirit beetles help pollinate. They crawl on flowers. They crawl to the other flower. They're moving pollen around. Ants do the same thing. And our beautiful little ruby-throated hummingbird, they can get in there and do all the stuff. When they're doing that, they're going to have it on their beak. They're going to go to the next flower, inadvertently pollinating for us. And a myriad of other things that utilize these habitats. So awesome if you think about it. So what we're developing is this understanding that, you know, you're making great pollinator habitat, but you are making great wildlife habitat, and then you are also making great sustainable landscape conservation efforts. All these are connected. And so Ohio is very diverse. We've got wetlands, we have grasslands, we've got ponds, woodlands. There is something you can do in all these areas. Just because you've got woods doesn't mean there isn't a seed we can get to grow there that will be beneficial for a pollinator, okay? I look at seeds a lot. My brain kind of hurts. I was looking at seeds earlier today. I had to go home and do more seeds, and that's okay. But you can get anything to grow. If you really want it to grow, we can help you do that. And so what I was talking about earlier, looking at those patches, right? Every patch matters. So if you think about this as just this sliver of where we're at tonight, okay, maybe it's just like a block. When you think about this block, just one block in Ohio. But we've got conservation reserve and wetland reserve programs. Those are great places to enhance for pollinators, okay? So we've got a few here. Oh, the DOT wants to do some stuff, so does the rail, so do some other areas. Perfect, sounds great. We've got these nice linear plots now. Some schools and churches heard about this and they want to do a project together to get out there and be sustainable. Perfect, let's do it. Oh, and the parks and the golf courses decided, hey, if you don't have to mow, we definitely want to do this. So help us develop some areas so we can stop mowing and we can put more efforts into some other initiative. And then the prisons and the airports and the fairgrounds are like, hey, that sounds great. If we don't have to mow, then we could put our money here, right? So, I mean, if you think about getting right down to it, for saving money, it kind of makes more sense, right? And then backyards. We all have a potential to do something, whether you're giving me a planter or you're giving me 10 by 10 plot, you're giving me a quarter acre, you don't want your front yard to mow anymore, whatever. We have lots and lots of opportunity areas. Now take this block and make it all Ohio and see all the yellow blocks that you can absolutely have across the state. Starts to make sense with all the patching and the mosaic starting to come together on a bigger landscape. And so we're all part of the solution, right? Each and every one of us. There's something we can do, whether you're planting something or you're telling your neighbor about it, or you're taking your kids out and you're teaching them about pollinators. Those are all connected activities that help us and helps pollinators. There's lots of challenges in the world for pollinators and for us. Habitat loss, disease, parasites, environmental contaminants, it keeps going, right? And as we go through these weird like fluctuations of weather, like I should probably go like meteorology school and just go ahead and do it because I watch the weather so often to know when to plant things and when to not plant things that I might as well just pull the trigger. But we know now that working across state lines, working with multiple agencies, coming out and speaking to people about why this is important and what we need is essential to making sure that we meet our mutually beneficial key things in our missions, right? So especially with agriculture, making that connection. And so we kind of coined the all you can, where you can. That's our slogan. We were sitting around one night thinking, what should our slogan be? And then Jeff Burris, who's retired from ODNR, said, man, it's really just all you can, where you can, right? Like that is perfect. Yes, it is. All you can, where you can. All hands on deck. Urban areas, suburban areas, rural areas. We all have a stake. We all have an opportunity. Why not take it? And so we're doing great things on the landscape, working with solar companies, working with ADP, working with the DOT, working with private landowners, coming up with these beautiful and beneficial tracts of land and compromising. Hey, yeah, we have some agriculture, but we have this other area that I can't get corn to grow. What do I do with it? Does your neighbor have soybeans? They'd probably love it if you could bring some pollinators over there. Let's plant it. Grazing. My backyard. My friend's backyard. And then a whole host of other groups that really, really want to do something good. I will tell you, I ran out of room on here, so I could come up with this. I couldn't figure it out. I was like, I'm done. It's too hard. There's too many logos, which is a really good thing, a really good problem to have. So that is what I have for you. I'll leave this slide up because some of you are asking for contact information. So here it is. That's my DOT stuff. But if you go to ohiopollinator.org, which is our website, my other contact information is up there.
Marcy, do you want to pass out seeds?
I would love to pass out seeds.
Would you like a hand?
I think I have,
I'm already
yeah.
up.
That'd be super, man.
You got another volunteer?
Ella, come help. Oh gosh, I'm so sorry, I forgot. I have, you know what, I get into my talk and I just forget things. This is Ella. Come up. Come up.
Hello.
This is Ella. Ella is one of our new student volunteers. She goes to Sonora State College, and she's starting a project on her campus, and she's going to be helping us throughout the summer until she decides not to. I'll keep her as long as she'll stay.
Awesome, thanks. Yeah. Thank you.
All right. She's going to pocket one of these. Yeah, I can get you more. You're always ready to first.
Yeah, we'll take some more too.
It's a very special seat.
This is not.
No, yeah. Almost.
See where that.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, if anybody wants any more food or maybe a little sweet, we still have a 2 things left. No ice cream.
Yeah.
Hey, can I have your attention? I wanna, can I have your attention? Hey, I wanna, first of all, I wanna thank Marcy for coming and talking to us and all the hard work. I also wanted to leave a little bit of time for some questions. We got time for a few questions for Marcy. Does anybody have any questions?
We can fight it out.
I've always had milkweed, and it's by the roadside guardrail, and I always have caterpillars and monarchs. And last fall, there was hardly any there. I collected seeds and tried to seed it. I don't know if there's something.
Do you know if there's any roadside spraying going
I'm
on?
sure there probably was.
So a lot of times when there's roadside spraying, there's also an inhibitor that they mix in. So when they're trying to kill the weeds, and then what they can mix into, and I'm not saying this is what happened, but we did have something happen with one of our plots. We're like, what's that these things growing? And we found out that there was inhibitor residue left in the tank. So it suppressed the growing of the things we wanted to have grow. So what they'll do is they'll kill the weeds with the initial chemical, and then there's another chemical that stays in that area in the soil that prohibits growth, regrowth.
It must have been something. It was significant. Is
Yeah.
there like, who would you contact? Do you know spray signs or anything?
Yeah, if you get a hold of me, we'll talk. Yes, ma'am. So that's a comment. So what she's saying, she had a lot of milkweed, and the milkweed was great, and she had lots of monarchs. But they want you to check the plants, if there's no eggs or caterpillars. That actually happens. Although I had a bunch of milkweed and monarchs, and then I saw some caterpillars, and then they were gone. Well, birds tend to shy away from it because so monarchs they've evolved with milkweed for a couple reasons. One is because it's a poisonous plant to most things, and it makes the caterpillars taste terrible. And so birds have evolved to know, oh, I should probably not eat that. Now, young birds, they haven't got their bird names yet, and they might try and eat it, and they're like, oh, this tastes disgusting, and drop it. So then you hope the caterpillar lives. Most of the time it dies because it got smashed by a piece, right? What's probably happening are assassin bugs. We had a lot of them this year. I had ants, I had stink bugs, and they go right after those caterpillars. And spiders are another one. Like spiders are great, not if you're trying to have caterpillars, because they sit there and wait. Especially the jumping spiders, they sit there and wait, and then they jump. And I watched it happen. I was like, should I intervene in nature or just let it happen, right? Yeah. So. Yeah. Yeah. It's terrible. So the only thing I can recommend, if you're having that happen, if you think that your milkweed is covered with stuff and you want to protect the caterpillars, the only thing you can really do is have more milkweed that's in a protected closed-in pen. If you're really trying to wrangle severe caterpillars, move them from that plant to a plant that's clean in a closed-in area, usually a net. I order these nets really cheaply off of Amazon. They've got like, I can stick my head in there and stuff. I actually cut the bottom off of it, and I just go out there and clean up my milkweed, and I go, bam, and I set it over top of my milkweed. And then I put the caterpillars on that milkweed. I'm kind of ruining the thing that I bought, but I'm making it work for me. And they're like $13, so I don't care. Oh, flies are another one. Oh, those are flower flies. Those are flower flies. So yeah, those are good ones. That's okay. They're out there with corn, so it makes sense. Any other questions?
Are deer pellets bad for insects and all? It's deer and rabbit pellets.
I think so. That's a great question. I'll ask somebody who's smarter than me about that. Because I don't claim to know everything. I have lots of great partners, and having such a great deep amount of partners helps me not have to be as smart, so I can ask them. I'll find out for you.
Sell us?
Nope.
Give it away?
Now, there's a whole different thing we've got to do if we want to sell seed, and I'm not doing that. Too much.
What? How much can you give in the tag?
Yeah.
I mean,
So we have request forms on our website at ohiopollinator.org. You go under resources, we have a sheet that you can fill out. You can email it to me, and you can request milkweed seed. You can request wildflower seed. I don't always have wildflower seed, or if we have a project that you want to work with us on, then we can talk about a bigger project. But it's basically first come, first serve. So as soon as I get it, and say this, here's the list of people who got a hold of me first, second, third. I get all this sent out, and if I run out, then I run out. Okay. Okay. You call me. That's a whole nother conversation. That's bigger than seed packets. But we'd love to help you with that. I love, like acres, 2 acres, I had a person call me, they had a quarter of an acre. I'm like, okay, it's a piece of cake, I'll help with that. That turned into 10 acres after the conversation and after discussing what their real long-term goals were. So just having a conversation can actually turn into something way bigger. And we can help put those pieces of the puzzle together.
So are you working with the Department of Natural Resources on CRP and
So
filter strips and those things?
I don't, we work together in the fact that if, let's say you cold called me and said, hey, I'm interested in doing 3 acres of pollinator habitat. then my question back to you, I have a certain amount of questions I send back. Instead of answers, I ask more questions, and I'll say, well, how much acreage are you talking about? Is it a farm? Do you have, what are your agricultural practices? Have you talked to anybody about CRP? I'll kind of go through that. And if you said no, then I would say, oh, okay. Well, based on what I'm hearing, I'll kind of walk you through that and see if you're interested in that, and I can get you in contact with somebody. Or let's say you already talked to all those people, you don't qualify. Then we're more resourceful, because then I can say, okay, well, what is it you want to do? And let me see if I can't help find resources for you to get your project done. So we don't have any incentives. We don't have any of that. The incentive is us helping you get that project done through a shared project. Did that answer your question?
Is there anything specific for shaded areas, plant wise?
Absolutely. There is. In fact, I just put a shade mix together before I left the house. For a shady spot on somebody's property.
You have access for that.
Sure do. Any other questions?
Number on this is your phone number?
So this is my office number, and I didn't realize I had my DOT stuff on there, but that's fine, just whatever.
You two are a lot quicker to call her cell phone this time.
I'm like, I try to rapid response, don't I?
Yeah. Right now.
And I've gotten calls at like midnight, and I'm like, I'll call you in the morning, but I will still respond to you at midnight. It might not be an answer, but it'll be a response.
So if we have like plowed fields that we have farmers plow our, grow on our acreage.
You're leasing
And,
property. to
Yeah,
a farmer.
leasing out, we were even thinking of taking our eastern acres and just converting them to something like this year before we even knew you were talking here. Do we have to have it plowed different, or can we, what did we have, soybean or corn last year? We had soybean last year.
The nice thing about taking something that was active agriculture is we've done all kinds of prep already.
Right.
Because you've been keeping the weeds suppressed.
Right.
So that's great. Know that when you get ready to plant that, you're still probably gonna have to battle weeds, but you're a step ahead because
Right.
you've already done all that work. So it's probably seed time, like making sure you've got good seed to soil contact. I'd say probably if the property has bare soil or mostly bare soil,
Mostly bare.
raking it, getting all the debris off of it, with a pull behind rake would probably be enough. And then wait for the fall. And
So you do the seeds in the fall, not in the spring.
you can do them both. You can do them anytime. The prescription changes. So actually I have a project that's getting ready to seed next week. And we're trying to meet the snow. We're like, oh, come on. Sorry, I wanted the snow again. I got too much work. I need some snow on the ground. I know I want it to be spring as bad as anybody else. But snow is important for restoration because it helps the seeds go through the stratification, vernalization process, makes them a little bit easier to germinate. So you can do it in the spring. Just know that you're probably gonna be battling weeds more if you do it in the spring than if you wait till the fall when everything's going dormant and you get a good kill off the surface, you get everything down. So now your seeds are gonna be there to grow the next spring and come up more strong because now they've had a chance to get in that soil and settle, as opposed to getting in the spring where now you're dealing with everything else growing at the same time. Does that make sense?
Yeah. How about grassy area, like our factory area, we have grass. Does that have to be plowed up or filling up?
Those are my favorite projects because all I have to do is get rid of grass. So if you're opposed to chemicals, depending on how big it is, there's different ways that you can do it. My recommendation would be to go out and kill all the grass with Roundup or a herbicide and get a good kill of that grass, get that surface cleared off. Don't till it because tilling is, you can do a light till.
I just want to make sure I heard you correctly.
Yeah, Roundup.
Roundup.
Well, I mean,
We'll have to wait for the next generation.
you want quick results. When you want to get the grass killed, or you can remove it by hand and scalp the surface. You can solarize it with plastic. There's multiple ways you can do it, like I said. But if you want to get it done this season, seeds in the ground in the fall, have them growing the next season, that's the way to do it. So, do you use Roundup? I've never been I'm not against chemicals. There's a place for them in restoration. Using them, educated, being educated about it, making sure that you're using it for the label, that you have a professional licensed applicator doing the work, so that way you're not being malicious out on the landscape. Like my neighbor across the street, he goes out and does everything opposite to what the bottle says to do. And I lose my mind every time he's out there. I have to go in the house. I can't handle it.
Yeah, it says use a cup.
He goes out 15 minutes before it rains with 20-mile-an-hour winds. So I'm like, what are you doing? So there is a place for that. And I'm not gonna tell a farmer who needs to use it to maintain his property, you can't do that, or you're wrong by doing it, right?
He won't like you waiting on the snow.
Yeah, I mean, so there's a place for it. We're not advocating for it, but I'm not saying you can't use it at all. And there is a way to use it correctly and with the educated use. Does that help?
It does, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I want to thank Marcy for coming here tonight and talking to us. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I'm going to be out of here by 8 o'clock, and I got two things yet that I want to mention. The first is, we have traditionally supported the Earth Day on at Osborne Park in Sandusky. And so that is on April the 23rd. And so if anyone's interested in getting involved in that this year, I'd like you to contact us. And I want to see, who's interested. And I know traditionally we set up a table there and had some education material. But if you're interested in that, please let me know. It's on April 23rd. And then the last thing that we got is we've got a raffle thing. Door prizes, I'm sorry. What did I do with it? So, Kim and Tammy, I'm gonna let you guys do this. Hey, this is really scientific how we do it.
Yeah, she'll be.
Hey, so
Thanks for in the
so
last.
here's what we're doing.
Yeah.
When you came in, when you signed in next to a number, and they're gonna draw some numbers back there, and they're gonna call out some names. Is everybody signed in?
That's our. Here's our. We should.
She told me. Tom Riding.
I said, first of all, I said, your doctor's office for an hour and 15 minutes. So I went over, so usually I just walk in. Sometimes you walk. They don't walk and say, and as soon as they said it was tomorrow. Yeah, I
Man, you were the lucky guy.
What I will.
Was exciting. They were eating some. So we just, so I said, they were showing down. We have like 15 out of 18. So we're like, let Brennan take care of them now.
I had 27 20. That was
Did it really? Yeah.
I don't know if it's alive.
Oh. It's very tough sometimes.
John Schick.
So. Next day, I don't know about
So now with those, you let them try to clean themselves. You'll let them clean themselves.
I won't try to walk until there's. Some of them are just.
It's like, just he wants to do it.